Sitting quietly in the morning, aware of the posture, the background sounds. The world is waking up in this part of the world. Feeling of warmth in the body, coolness on the back of the neck and the nose. Body sensations, aware of body sensations. Luang Por Sumedho delivered so many wonderful talks and examples and pointings during the retreat that I just finished. Remembering them can be used as a skillful means to point the mind to quietness. Start with awareness of the breath, the sensation of breath as it moves in, as it moves out of the nostrils. The posture, the breathing. These are objects of awareness. We use the word awareness to describe that which perceives the objects, understands that there is an object. The object is not thinking or thought. The object is the sensation, in this case, of the breath, and the feelings in the body that we call the awareness of the posture. It's not complicated. It's just like this. When other objects arise coming from other senses, for example, the sense of hearing, the background noise, it's simply known for what it is with the awareness. So when we sit like this, we're not choosing anything. We're simply aware of what's being delivered. To the sense organs. This is a dynamic listening with no particular preference. I use the word listening, but it's also a feeling. Could be a tasting, a touching. Any of the 5 physical senses and what they'd receive and deliver. We have these 5 areas of sense consciousness. We watch them with awareness. We hear them with awareness. We feel them with awareness. So we can do this for some time, some minutes. If the body has experience with sitting and the muscles are satisfied with this upright posture, then we can do it for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour, 45 minutes. You can do it for an hour. You can do it for more if the body is experienced and trained and the muscles can accommodate the posture without becoming painful to the point that movement becomes necessary. Of course, it does become necessary at some point because these bodies are ultimately fragile. They're just organic matter. You can't tell them to do something and rely on them to do that for some random period of time. It's a skillful effort, and it has a bracket of time. So, which is to say that being aware of these objects of the senses and the object of the mind, the thinking, is a restful and revealing exercise. Awareness of objects with no preference, not getting dragged away by them anywhere. This is Vipassana. It's called, there's a name for it. It's called Vipassana. It has these characteristics. It doesn't last forever, but it is a means that can be harnessed with understanding and experience to maintain a steadiness of mind and to appreciate the awareness that derives from the 5 physical senses and the mind sense. Don't try to describe it in too much detail. At the end of the ability of one's intellect or mind to describe it, you're left with a conclusion. It's like this. You can't go further than that. It's like this. Right now, sitting here with this awareness is like this. When you've achieved some stability of this awareness, stability includes, for example, a kind of trembling of the awareness, the way that it moves around, the way that different sense objects arise, and peak in their experience and then pass away. All of this described by the Buddha, the nature of reality, rising and passing away, non-permanent. When you've experienced that for a while, there's another opportunity that is also there, because there's another thing that awareness can perceive. Is it a thing? Ask the question, what is aware of the awareness? Use the quiet and the experience of being able to experience the sensations in the body, the sensations of breathing, the coming and going of thought. Use that experience. Use the idea of the impermanence of it. And ask the question, what is aware of the movement and shifting of the awareness itself? Be aware of the awareness. You're aware of a voice speaking. You're aware how the awareness moves to it. When the voice stops, you're aware that the awareness perceives that it's stopped. If this is exciting to you, notice that the awareness perceives excitement. It's a mental state that also comes and goes, and it also depends on the conditions that we've been generating and that the awareness is being generated by during this little sit. Being the awareness. So these words that are being used here are nothing more than pointing, starting with a memory and an intention. The memory is the memory of the instructions of how to meditate. And then moving out of the memory into the reality of the experience. Sitting is like this. Body sensations, posture, breathing, thinking, 5 physical and mental senses and how they come and go. And when some measure of stability has been achieved, some ease of that experience, one can ask the question, what is aware of the awareness? Luang Por Sumedho calls this skillful means. In Pali it's known as upaya. It was described by the Buddha. It's not his, it's not mine, it's not yours, it's not a possession, this skillful means. It's an insight. It also comes and goes, depends on the conditions, but it's real, and it's ultimately real. that space of awareness, and especially the awareness of the awareness being conscious of consciousness itself. This is the ultimate reality. One can go no further than this. And it was from this vantage point that the Buddha made all of his discoveries about the impermanence, the unreliability of sensory organs and their objects. When awareness is experiencing awareness, there is no self. The self disappears with the objects that we normally use to define who it is that we think we are. The sensations of this body in sitting, we take to be ourselves. The objects of hearing, we take it as a way to form a mental shape or landscape that we identify as this environment that surrounds us. It further defines us as like a shadow, like a hearing shadow, that it casts a shadow that we look at, we perceive the shadow is me. Objects of sight, we've had our eyes closed, and they're probably still closed, but anyway, the objects of sight are just the same. They come rushing in. These are things that further define I, me. But awareness of awareness has none of those objects. And having none of those objects, there is no me there. There is only awareness. Awareness of awareness. Listening to Luang Por, I heard him say things like, awareness is the ultimate reality. This awareness, this consciousness, he uses the words consciousness, mindfulness, awareness pretty much in the same way, he says. So this consciousness, this awareness, this mindfulness is what you are ultimately. Not a personality. And it's not impermanent. It was never created. It was never born. And is deathless. It is an inheritance, a reality that is available to all individuals, because we all have a mind, and the mind works in the way in which the Buddha described it. It's a replicable experience. But one has to be careful of trying to replicate it through an act of will. It's more about relaxation, about allowing it to arrive, not putting obstacles in its way. You can see what the obstacles are. One of them is expectation. Another word for expectation is desire. You want to have the experience. You don't want the other experience. You want the pleasant experience. You don't want the unpleasant experience. But seen with awareness, pleasant experiences and unpleasant experiences have just the same nature. We have our preferences and things that we want to avoid, but in their essential nature, all experiences, whether happy, sad, good or bad, are of the same nature, seen from awareness. They are also not personal. They are also always changing. So this is what Luang Por has pointed to repeatedly during the retreat that I've just come from. It's very beautiful. Thank you, Luang Por. That's on Sumedho.